actually be.
Should I start right now?
Hey, David. Oh, Eddie. Yeah, one call.
Good morning, Tennessee Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. Happy Sunday to you. I am happy that all of you are here and we are here together this morning, almost at the start of August. My name is Heather Kistner and I'm a member of the board here at Tennessee Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. And on behalf of the board and the program council, I would like to welcome each of you. You are welcome here wherever you are from, wherever you are on your journey. We definitely welcome you to this space. If you'd like more information about TVUUC, there is a white piece of paper floating around in front of your seat, most likely. Please fill those out. We love to see a little stack of those things at the end of the service. If you have questions, they will be answered, and our goal is to have everyone feel like their little card has been responded to in a timely fashion. For those of you viewing online, you can go to the church website at tvuuc.org. Let's go ahead and take that opportunity. That camera's on, so let's say good morning to those folks back there. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. As we move forward together, please remember we are each other's keeper. If you or your family are interested in programs for children, youth, and parents, please visit our religious exploration table located in the lobby. The church website also has updated information about this year's programs and events, as well as resources for families. Please join us after the service for coffee and conversation in the fellowship hall and our patio, which is lovely. weather permitting. I have just a couple of announcements. I would like to invite Casey and Betty up for an announcement, and then we'll have two following that.
Good morning, everyone here and at home. I don't know which one's on. Hello. Thank you. That's better. Good morning, everyone here and at home. This is just a short announcement to let everyone know that the Religious Services Support Cluster is sponsoring the August 1st Let's Connect First Sunday Lunch next Sunday after the service. That includes the choir, the sound team, the spiritual care team, and the worship committee. So thank you to all of them for sponsoring the lunch. And this month we're going to be celebrating the back to school season. And so we will be collecting book bags, backpacks, school supplies and such, both for our kiddos here who are in need, and then the rest we will donate to Lonsdale Elementary School. So school supply and book bag collection next Sunday. The cluster members will be providing a variety of sandwich and desserts for our lunch, but the rest of us are encouraged to bring our favorite lunchbox snacks to share or trade. If you'd like to sign up and let us know what you're bringing, there is a Sign Up Genius. The link is on the TVUUC Members and Friends Facebook page. It's all over the place, the listserv, the newsletter, just about everywhere you can find a link if you'd like to let us know. If you don't let us know, then please bring something yummy or just show up and enjoy the food and fellowship next Sunday. Hope to see you there. Now I'm putting on my Volunteer of the Month hat, and I will say, if you haven't already, please nominate a July Volunteer of the Month. Polls close tomorrow, so you can vote in the fellowship hall. There's a box and ballots. You can also vote online. You can find that, again, there are links all over the place, the Facebook page, the listserv, and I guess that's it, and the website. That's on the website under Get Involved and Volunteer of the Month ballot. And I think that's it, right?
That's it.
Okay, thanks everybody. Happy Sunday.
What is questions? Questions is a meeting for visitors or those who want to know more about TVUUC, Unitarian Universalism, and the path to membership. It is also open to current members who may want to deepen their connection to TVUUC and Unitarian Universalism. Light snacks will be provided. We look forward to meeting you. Our next session is on July 30th at 1 p.m. in the Lizzie Crozier-French room. Is today the 30th? I was hoping you would know that. Yes. Today is the 30th, so at 1 p.m. I have attended one session myself, and it's very, very interesting. It's heartwarming. It just deepens your overall knowledge exactly of what this announcement said. So thank you very much, Mark Mahandro, for that announcement. That is all of the announcements. For those of you online, please correct me. Is the coffee hour postponed today online? Do we know? Yes. It is postponed, okay. So our apologies, it is postponed today for those of you viewing online. Please silence your electronic devices as...
The coffee hours was not postponed.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mary. Okay, I stand corrected. So there is going to be a coffee hour online after the service. Please silence your electronic devices as we enter into worship. Thank you.
Good morning. This prelude was originally written for a large treble choir by Nancy Krundal, but she has arranged it for inclusion in a resource called the Justice Choir Songbook, which is intended to be a collection of songs that can be used during activist events. And so this short, round version has the text, "Oh, be swift to love and make haste to be kind."
Be swift to love, and make haste to be kind, to be kind. Oh, be swift to love, and make haste to be kind, to be kind. Oh, be swift to love, and make haste, be swift to be kind, to be kind, and make haste, be swift to love, be kind, and make haste, be swift to love, be kind, and make haste, to be Oh, be swift and make haste, be swift and make haste to love and be kind.
Helping out with the worship service this morning. Oh, sorry. It's a little close. Anyway, I want to introduce our speaker for today. I think most of you know Gordon Gibson, but for those who do not, Gordon is a retired Unitarian minister who moved here some years ago and has been a part of this congregation ever since. I don't want to read his entire resume, but just focus on a particular incident in his career that is relevant to the sermon today. In February of 1965, he served as half of a two-person exploratory team checking on a possible Unitarian Universalist involvement in voter registration in Selma, Alabama. In the course of this trip, he was arrested in a demonstration and served 7 days of a 5-day jail sentence. This was a month prior to the massive violence in Selma and a march from Selma, Montgomery. I think that's very relevant to this, and he was also the only, in 1969 to 1984, was the only Unitarian minister in the state of Mississippi, serving on numerous interracial, interfaith, and social justice committees and task forces. For our opening words, oh, be swift to love, to act for justice. Be unafraid to ask the question that leads to fresh knowledge of greater understanding. Be willing, even eager, to change and grow. May this be a community of love and justice seeking, Maybe we questioners who gather to change and grow. Maybe we dreamers who dream for a better world and to make a world real. Come, let us worship together. Peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This is our great covenant. This is a portion of a statement at a Dominican monastery in 1948 by Albert Camus, French existentialist writer who had worked with the resistance during World War II. This came from a book that Gordon read for the first time while he was in jail, so this is particularly important. The world needs real dialogue. Falsehood is just as much the opposite of dialogue as is silence. And the only possible dialogue is the kind between people who remain what they are and speak their minds. We are faced with evil. And as for me, I feel rather as Augustine did before becoming a Christian when he said, I tried to find the source of evil and I got nowhere. But it is also true that I, and a few others, know what must be done, if not to reduce evil, but at least not to add to it. Perhaps we cannot prevent this from being a world in which children are tortured, but we can reduce the number of tortured children. And if you don't help us, who else in the world will help us do this? Between the forces of terror and the forces of dialogue, a great unequal battle has begun. I have nothing but reasonable illusions about the outcome of that battle, but I believe it must be fought. I know that certain men at least have resolved to do so. I merely fear that they will occasionally feel somewhat alone, but they are in fact alone, and that after an interval of 2,000 years, we may see the sacrifice of Socrates repeated several times. The program for the future is either a permanent dialogue or a solemn and significant putting to death of any of those who have experienced dialogue. Let us read with showing and singing hymn number 300 in the Great Hymnal.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is David Massey. I'm privileged to be a member of the all-volunteer spiritual care team. Among other things, we answer TV UUC's pastoral care line during the day and early evening 7 days a week, and respond to phone messages as soon as we hear them. That number, 865-297-3155, is on the back of your order of service and in the weekly newsletter. This is the number to call if you need to talk in confidence about a problem or issue you are facing, if you have a joy or a concern that you'd like shared in the newsletter or at a Sunday service. Please do not hesitate to call. Also, please stop by the caring table in the Greg McKendry Fellowship Hall to add your name to messages of support that will be mailed to those in need of our good wishes. Chloe Araldi Waters and Tony Powell are volunteering at that table today. This morning, our hearts go out to Mark Mahundro, who had to make the difficult decision to have his beloved cat Smoke put down, and Marco Castaneda, who is recovering from ankle replacement surgery, Will Hoskins, as he recovers from recent surgery, Rick Held, recovering from shoulder surgery, Steve Krause, who is home and holding his own after a series of hospital stays, Walter Davis, who will have his hip replacement surgery on August 3rd, Devon Alley, whose beloved Aunt Rose died recently, and Bobby Cruz, who began chemotherapy last week as she begins what is expected to be a long fight against breast cancer. And we share these joys. We have recently congratulated two couples in the church who celebrated their 50th wedding anniversaries, but I'm not sure that we have celebrated that 50th milestone with Benny and Patsy Farmer, parents of our RE director. Congratulations, Benny and Patsy. Beverly Clark reports that her sister and best friend Valda, who lives in New Zealand, has rallied and rejuvenated from what appeared to be kidney failure and has returned home. Beverly very much appreciates the good wishes and healing energies that came from this congregation. Joe Touchton is home, doing well, and resting comfortably after realignment of arteries in his neck in a serious but elective and successful surgery last Tuesday. Step 2 will be the insertion of a sleeve in his aorta. Believe it or not, that's not as serious as the one this last Tuesday, probably sometime in mid to late August. We wish a speedy recovery, a speedy repair to Joe's heart, but we know that his spiritual heart is bigger than this room and needs no repair. The first Unitarian Universalist principle is the inherent worth and dignity of every individual, and that extends to working people and their right to organize and bargain for a decent living wage and decent working conditions. As many of you know, the Teamsters recently negotiated one of the best labor contracts in recent memory with UPS, and I'm glad to tell you that one of the beneficiaries of that, hopefully, if the contract is approved in the next few days, will be our own Shane Smith. Shane, Shane drives inner-city trucks for UPS. This morning, we share a special bond with the Community Unitarian Universalist Church of Plano, Texas, right above Dallas, whose front entrance was firebombed shortly after midnight last Sunday morning. No one was injured, and a quick response by the Plano Fire Department limited the damage to the front entrance and foyer. The Sunday service proceeded as planned. Church officials had been reviewing building security and working with the Plano police department since the intrusion of a hate group in the church building during and after worship service a month earlier. That group posted video of their activities inside the church and on various social media sites. A card expressing our love and support will be sent to the Plano congregation. You may add your name to that card at the caring table in the fellowship hall following the service. We can certainly understand the complexity of the feelings they are now experiencing in Plano, because this past week we marked 17 years since the attack on this church, an assault that resulted in the death of Greg McKendry, for whom our fellowship hall is named, and Linda Krager, for whom our library is named. Others of us were wounded in body, and everyone else, in varying degrees, wounded in spirit. Let us pause for a moment of silence in solidarity with the congregation in Plano and in remembrance of those we lost here 15 years ago. Returning from our silence, we also remember the flood of support that we received locally and from around the country those years ago, and we are especially mindful of the love, healing energy, and mutual support that is ever present in this church community. If you need more time to sit in silence with others or to share your feelings about Plano and the events here in 2008, come forward to the front of the sanctuary after the service. Tina, Becker, and I will help make healing space for one another. For all of the joys and concerns that were spoken here today, as well as those that are unknown or unspoken, we send our love and light out into the world.
Let us join in a time of meditation, reflection, prayer, in spoken word, and shared silence. We may today feel buffeted, bruised, challenged, remembering bad times past, knowing current problems unresolved, worrying about what the future holds. These feelings are real. But also real are love, community, and opportunity. Love, the connection person to person, I to thou, makes even pain and heartbreak bearable. The touch of love brings beauty into life. Love is ours to give as well as to receive. Community offers support and purpose and confirms we are none of us alone. Community offers strength when one is weak and the possibility to reach out whenever one sees need. Opportunity may present as a problem, inviting search for a solution. Opportunity may be a void waiting to be filled, an obstacle calling for circumvention. Even on the worst of days, love, community, and opportunity are somewhere close at hand. May we each find love, community, and opportunity. May we each be part of the circle in which love, community, and opportunity are made real. Amen. Our next hymn is number 323 in the gray hymnal, Break Not the Circle.
Good morning. My name is Claudia Presley. I am the Director of Finance and Operations here at TVUUC. Today, at this time during the service, we will be having our offering. That offering today will go towards the Generosity General Fund of TVUUC. What that means is that 100% of any amount that you give today that is not marked as a pledge will go to that general operating fund. If you're here in the sanctuary, you can give using checks or cash. If you would like to give in our lobby, there is a giving kiosk that will accept debit cards and credit cards. If you're watching online, the easiest way to give is to text give to the number 73256. Type in TVUUC and the amount that you would like to give. You can also use that text giving here in the sanctuary if you prefer to do that. Or if you're watching on a screen, there should be a bar or a button that says Give Now. So we invite you to give generously to this generosity offering today. Thank you.
This offertory music is the prayer of St. Francis in a setting by Vicki Masters, who was a former music director here at TVUUC. And the text is, "Make me a channel of your peace, that where there's hatred, I may bring love. Where there's wrong, may I bring the spirit of forgiveness. And where there's discord, harmony. Where there's error, may I bring the truth, and in doubt, may I show the way to faith. In despair, may I bring hope, and in shadows, let me shine the light. And grant me the grace to bring joy to sadness, and bring comfort to those who need my comfort. May I seek to understand than be understood. May I love rather than be loved. For it is in giving that we receive, and for giving we are forgiven. And in dying we awake to eternal life. Amen.
And grant me
A long time ago, in a galaxy much like this one, I was serving two part-time ministries, two congregations that were very different in their origins. I think I heard some grumbling somewhere over here. He's way over one word already. Okay, let me clarify. This is the introduction, the prelude. Then you get the one word. And then there's a little postlude. Okay. Where was I? Oh, okay. About 4 decades ago, I was serving two part-time ministries in Mississippi. One was in a congregation of Unitarian origin in Jackson, Mississippi. The other was in a congregation of Universalist origin with an Ellisville, Mississippi post office address, but not actually in Ellisville. Unitarian and Universalist congregations, particularly here in the South, had very different histories and backstories. There were almost no Unitarian churches in the Deep South until after World War II. Unitarian churches were concentrated up in New England and some across the country. But the South really hadn't interested headquarters up in Boston. Universalists had spread out across the country early on. There were congregations in Mississippi founded as early as 1830. And Unitarian congregations were typically started with support and guidance from the parent organization, the American Unitarian Association. Universalist churches just happened for the most part. And Unitarians tended to seek out, oh, here's a college town. Oh, there's a good business community here. So here, in 1949, they looked at TVA, Oak Ridge, University of Tennessee, already a sort of a critical mass of interested people, and we happened. In 1951, in Jackson, Mississippi, well, there's state government, there's several colleges, there's a medical center, and a handful of interested people in that Jackson, Mississippi congregation was started by Unitarians. Ellisville, Mississippi, very different origin story. Along about 1905, or early 1906, a man named Orange Harrington invited a cousin who lived on the other side of Ellisville to come help him with some sawing. What Orange didn't know was that his cousin had just discovered and joined a small Universalist congregation on the south side of Ellisville. So they sawed for a while. Eventually, the cousin, a very excited new member, said, "Orange, do you believe in an eternal burning hell?" And Orange said, "Well, as a matter of fact, no. That sounds crazy. I had just joined a church that teaches there is no such thing as an eternal hell to which many millions of people are condemned." Apparently, the sawing paused and the jawing commenced. And Orange Harrington was very excited to hear about this idea of a loving God, and we're not all facing the prospect of going to hell if we don't believe the right thing. By the end of the afternoon, he said, "I mean to have a congregation like that in this neighborhood if I have to start it in my own home." Well, at some slightly later point, a traveling minister was engaged. The first sermon was preached from the front porch of Mr. Harrington's home. And in 1906, our home, Universalist Unitarian Church, was founded. It's not in Ellisville. It's north of Ellisville on the Ridge Road between Ellisville and Soso. And that's so typical of Universalist churches in the Deep South. They're in rural areas, they're in small towns. They're started not by headquarters that has checked the demographics, but by a handful of excited people. Well, the Universalists and the Unitarians had merged in 1961. Headquarters stayed in Boston. We became a much stronger group with that merger. But in the South, the Universalist origin churches were not particularly well served by the programs put forward by the UUA, which were really oriented more toward the more urban Unitarian churches. Adjustment here. So, fortunately, we had a pretty wise regional staff person who realized there were these little Universalist congregations, not numerically all that significant, but they were our voice, our presence in all sorts of places where there wasn't anything else for another 40, 50, 100 miles. It would make sense to take care of them. So, he dealt with that problem by creating what we came to call the Universalist Summit, getting the ministers of these small Universalist origin congregations to a meeting at the Mountain Camp and Conference Center in North Carolina. So, ministers serving Ellisville and Louisville, Mississippi, Cannon and Winder, Georgia. I think also Bruton, Alabama was in there, maybe Camp Hill, Alabama. We got together there at the mountain, and had a good session. We found we had a lot of problems in common. Low pay, resistance to change. So the next year, we again had a Universalist summit. This time, there were going to be some other groups meeting at the mountain that weekend, and the mountain staff asked that we provide a Sunday morning service for ourselves and the other guests there at the mountain. For reasons unknown to me, I was handed the task of organizing this service. This was a challenge. How do you put together a service involving 5 or 6 ministers and get an equitable distribution of the work and the glory? You don't say, well, I'll take care of the sermon, you can do a reading, how about a prayer? You can do the benediction. Yeah. So I reached back to a legend, a theory, a notion that every minister has basically one sermon. There are different readings, there are different stories, different illustrations, but it's... So I said, okay, each of us gets a 5-minute opportunity to preach a brief version of his sermon, and you can also include a reading if you want. It sort of almost worked. You get the preacher-creature talking, it's hard to hold to 5 minutes. We're geared for longer. But I was particularly struck by one colleague who started off by announcing, well, I can give my sermon in one sentence. God is love. Now, this is great Universalist theology. This really works within the Universalist context. Now, he did go on and elaborate on that for 4.5 minutes. But it got me wondering, okay, that's a challenge. He got it down to one sentence. Could I economize further? Get it down to one word? Well, a few years later, we had moved. I was serving our congregation in Elkhart, Indiana, and I attempted to get it down to one word. In that first effort, I settled on responsibility. Not a bad word. Probably I'm a little predisposed to responsibility. I'm the older child in a 2-child family, and I understand, okay, birth order does mean something. And I do strongly believe that each person is responsible for their own actions. I feel a responsibility to work toward justice, toward a just order. Justice in human relations. this fits with the philosopher John Rawls' theory of justice, which I read about later on. John Rawls said, justice says you set up a system, a social system, without presupposing where you will be in that system. Are you the big shot in the corner office? Are you the cleaning person who comes in and cleans the office and scrubs the toilets at night? Are you the person sleeping in the doorway, but the cleaning person wakes up in the morning so you won't be hassled by law enforcement? A just system treats all those levels of society equitably. Yeah, that's a responsible distribution. And that explains why a white, straight, cisgendered male has worked for black rights, for LGBTQ rights, for women's rights. Yeah. And as Albert Camus wrote, we can't prevent there being tortured children, but we can reduce the number of children who are tortured. That's responsibility. But I became dissatisfied with that one-word sermon. Responsibility seemed a bit me-oriented, not really complete. Maybe a big part of my sermon, but not the whole thing. And so a few years later, I tried again. I still like the place that responsibility has in my life, but I came to realize that's not the essence of my sermon. As I wrestled with that, I came up with another R word. And here endeth the long prelude. Relationship. Relationship. That's more like it. I think it includes responsibility, but it doesn't stop with responsibility. Relationship is a significant part of how we learn. I know a few years ago I shared the story of how when we were in Boston, Judy and I went to a meeting of the Unitarian Sunday School Society that was addressed by a Harvard professor who was advocating for team teaching as part of our religious education programs. And he summed up what's good about team teaching by saying, in team teaching, you put 2 or 3 stupid teachers in a room together and they unstupidify each other. That's what we do for each other. We unstupidify. That's part of the relationship. You unstupidify me, I unstupidify you. Relationship embraces the ideal that Camus suggested, a permanent dialogue. Last week, we heard Elnora Williams again read words from her daughter, Elandria, I was struck. There was a key word in that reading, repeated several times. Relationship. Relationship can also point beyond us, beyond the here and now. Can point toward ultimate reality. The 19th century transcendentalist and advocate for women's rights, Margaret Fuller, was reported to have once said, "I accept the universe." And the British writer and intellectual Thomas Carlyle is reported in this tale to have said, "Gad, she'd better." But many don't accept the universe. Many try to force ultimate reality into a shape that they like, that they crave. I don't make much use of the word God, but I do believe that we need to relate consciously and responsibly to that within which we live and move and have our being, to use terms that are ascribed to St. Paul. So, there you have it. Long prelude. One word, relationship. And a short postlude. I hope I haven't gone on too long and damaged our relationship. And our relationship calls us to turn to hymn 318, "We Would Be One." Prophetic Church, the world awaits your liberating ministry and looks forward to the relationships that we can build and reinforce. As the last act of worship, turn and relate to your neighbor.